We welcome you to Los Angeles, and tonight in this city of stars, Jordan Kerr and the undefeated Salt Lake Shred set to battle the AUDL's all-time leading assist king, Pavel Giannis, and the Los Angeles Aviators. Major ramifications in the West Division as we head into the final month of the 2023 regular season. And from Jack Kemp Stadium, we welcome you, Evan Lepler with Ian Toner and Katie Killebrew. Free Friday Frisbee is back, and this is a really fascinating game. We got to start talking about the Salt Lake Shred. We saw New York go to 9-0 earlier tonight. Salt Lake's the other remaining undefeated team in the league. They've clearly made strides from a year ago, and they were good. What have they done this year, and that's made them great?
I think their offense has just become so much more adept at adapting their style to whatever the defense is giving. They can play at a super fast pace. They can air it out. They can slow things down if they need to. There's just so much more composure and poise relative to that group a year ago, and they should be really proud of what they've accomplished so far.
Earlier this season, LA went to Utah and was tied after the first quarter, Katie, and then it all unraveled from there. How do they change the story tonight?
Well, LA has really been building their offense this year. Pavel Giannis is new, and they're really centering themselves around a lot of talent. And he has really put together a much better team. And I think that their defense is also going to ramp up because they are really good at person defense. And I think that might actually make an impact here on the Shred.
There are plenty of stars to focus on. Jordan Kerr and Jacob Miller are two guys that formerly played for the Spiders, now in their second year with the Shred. And Ian, these two guys just have a great chemistry with one another.
You know, both of these guys are having career years from a completion percentage perspective. Maybe Jordan Kerr is not putting up the video game assist numbers that he was a year ago, but his ability to just command the offense with his presence, his ability to find and build chemistry with his teammates, everyone on this unit is just sharing a little bit more of the load, and that's allowing Miller and Kerr to flourish and grow.
And this Los Angeles team has a dynamic duo of their own. Pavel Giannis and Sean McDougal have gradually progressed in their chemistry, and lately, Katie, they've won 5 in a row, and this duo is a big reason why.
Absolutely. I mean, Sean played with the Growlers last year, but he's a longtime Aviators player. But getting both Pavel Giannis and McDougal back on this Aviators line and seeing them do the work, especially at the front of the end zone, I don't know how many clips we're going to show of Sean McDougal just running to the front cone over and over again. We see that play again and again, and it's like someone forgets that Sean McDougal, who's been in this league for almost a decade, is in love with the front cone. Pavel Giannis, on the other hand, in love with assists, being the assist leader in the league, and I think it's kind of a match made in heaven now that they're really getting on the same page.
Hundreds of goals for McDougal. He has yet to run out of quirky celebrations. Katie has called him a goofball, and he fills that role well. This is going to be fun tonight. LA trying to change the narrative. This is a very important game for the Aviators' playoff pursuit. Meanwhile, Salt Lake looks to remain undefeated. Free Friday Frisbee Shred Aviators opening poll coming up.
Center of the game with the pole for the Aviators, number 39, Chris Mason. The opening pool was presented by Pittscraft, representatives of the AUDL. Off the draw by number 39, Chris Major. Fans be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Los Angeles Aviators and on Twitter at LA Aviators to keep up with the team and be a part of contests and giveaways. Set the ball for the Aviators, number 66, Garrett Santee. Set goal, got by number 22, Chase Foul. Go for the score by number 8, Will Selfridge. Fans should head on over to the merch booth to get in on that $5 all-you-can-eat pizza. Set the ball for the thread, number 89, Eugene LaRue.
Let's go!
Timeout is called on the field by the Shred.
How's mine look now?
Seven or some odd weeks from now. But the only way that we can really prepare ourselves for that is to not overlook these opponents, to treat our practices as serious playoff opportunities, and to treat these actual games against stiff West Division competition as the dress rehearsals for those do-or-die moments.
Yeah, they may be 8-0, but some of those games have been very close.
And Bryce Merrill said they aren't that far away from being 4-4. Kerr to Knoll. And the Shred take their first lead. And when Bryce Merrill said that, it kind of caught me off guard, because I feel like I've looked at Salt Lake as such an excellent team, but he talked about their comeback against Portland, their overtime game against the Spiders, and then both Colorado games were down to the wire, decided by 1.
I think it's a fair take, and I think it's a great look inside the mind of a coach who's practical and realistic, right? Two things can be true. You can be confident in your group while you can also acknowledge the reality of the close circumstances that you just happen to emerge victorious in. And I really love his mindset. I mean, Evan, I know you and the crew that put together the midseason awards content voted him as the coach of the year at the midseason point, and rightly so, given all that this group has done to shake up the West Division so far this season.
Aviators broken on that last point. Disc in the hands of the veteran Michael Keoy. Swings it over to Everest Shapiro, second-year Aviator out of Tulane. Here's McDougal. And bumped on the mark. That's Ben Hoffman, playing in his first game since June 24th of last year, when he suffered a season-ending knee injury. And McDougal's throw, not what the Aviators were looking for.
That was a thrower-initiated movement to the front of the stack, and Giannis just didn't read it quickly enough. Also could have been some execution slightly off the mark there.
Shred, though, unable to convert. Hoffman unable to handle that swing from DeLynn. Giannis Scuba for Osborne past the feisty contest. Nothing comes easy against the Salt Lake defense. Chad Jorgensen flying around, and then great handler defense, but it was a little too tight. Zach Burnside bumping Pavel Giannis in the backfield. This is going to stay with Osborne at the goal line.
This will advance 10 yards.
Giannis not in yet. And there is the assist for Pavel. ABL's all-time leader in that department comes up with another. We're talking keys to the game for the Aviators. This is a team that has had at times struggled doing the simple things, Katie, and avoiding those simple mistakes, those bad mistakes that are unforced, really feels absolutely imperative tonight against Salt Lake.
Absolutely. I mean, last week they started off the game by dropping a pole and giving up a Callahan, and I think that those miscue errors, they have to avoid those awful mistakes. They have to really execute in those small spaces. We see Chris Mazer here about to pull that D-line, doing a really good job of executing, but that O-line with Giannis and McDougal that we talked about at the Open, maybe not doing that so well, so we can see them huddling on the sideline and hopefully talking about how to make that a little bit better.
We're going to see a bunch of different faces on the Salt Lake O-line tonight. We've got 9 guys that are going to rotate. A couple of these O-liners like Grant Lindsley and Will Selveridge we're also going to see on D at different points this evening. Luke Jorgensen back to Jordan Kerr and over to McKay Jorgensen. Luke and McKay on this O-line. Chad's on the D-line, and a fortunate realization there by Jaime. Salt Lake's offense not in full gear right now. Still working out the early kinks. They're number 3 in the league in hold percentage. They're number 1 in O-line conversion percentage. And it's tremendous defense from Lucas Ambrose as he gets another victim with his insane athleticism.
I've been so impressed with him this year. He may have started out a little bit playing dangerously, but now he is really learning to read defenders and get in the way, and you can see why he's the leader of blocks in the league.
Denying the score right by the front pylon.
Not hyperbole from Coach Jeff Landesman when he said, yeah, the expectation now is every game he's going to notch multiple blocks. It's not will he get a block, it's just how much is he going to pad that stat sheet. And that's such a crazy expectation for such a young player to display that level of athleticism and instinct and anticipation at this level of play on this size of field.
He's had multiple blocks in 5 of his first 9 games. He's had at least 4 blocks 3 times. That low throw from Mazer, not how he wanted to release it. Lindsley picks up for Salt Lake.
Wonder if Kerr got a small piece of that.
Aviators as a team, not shy about throwing their bodies around defensively.
Well, if you can make the offense think about you for even 1 extra second, that's an advantage as a defender, and you need all the help you can get.
Knoll to McKay Jorgensen. John Knoll having an underratedly spectacular season. Bryce Merrill has said many times that he feels everyone on his team from last year is like 10% better. Then you add Grant Lindsley and Elijah Jaime onto the O-line, and that's why this team is number 1 in the league in O-line conversion rate through their first 8 games.
Will Selfridge too. I mean, this O-line is just imposing and formidable at this point. And you think about Sean Knoll's growth back when he was a college player, as we get another look at that phenomenal block from Ambrose. When he was a college player, he was kind of a D-line handler. He had to sling it, he had to push the limits, he had to stretch things, and last season, he was competent. There's a reason he was their center O-line handler, but he was really growing into that O-line, more efficient and possession-oriented responsibility. And this year, he's just reached this new gear of knowing when to push the limits and stretch it, but still being able to value the disc and keep this offensive group as a really threatening unit.
We are on serve. Each team has 1 break in 2 chances. Giannis to Cook. Chad Jorgensen really doing a nice job sticking tight with Giannis. Osborne in the middle of the field. This is Shapiro. Pavel finds McDougal underneath. The issue at times this year for the LA offense is finding the connectivity between their handlers and their cutters. This possession has been pretty smooth though. See the Salt Lake defenders throwing chests into the offensive players. Osborne looking around. Van Dusen as well, no call, and Salt Lake has its 3rd break chance as we tick under 3 minutes to play in this opening quarter. Eugene LaRue against the double team. And able to just beat the stall, getting it across the field to Ben Ashton. Salt Lake off to the races here. This is Moonga. Back into the hands of Nathan Huff. Monga and Huff continue for the score. Johnny Hoffman puts the Shred up by 2.
This break made possible by the poise and the execution of Gene LaRue. Number one, the rest of the defensive unit did a great job to force the tough throw and the turnover. But, Evan, you pointed it out in live action. As we get another look at the turnover here, Monga with the pressure. But the stall count is rising to about 5. There's a double team in his face. He's pinned up against his own cone in his own corner. And Gene LaRue knifes through the defense, unlocks the defensive pressure, executes a complete field switch, and then as soon as that throw is complete, the D-line offense is off to the races the rest of the field.
LaRue played the last 2 years for the Boston Glory. Massachusetts native, came out to Salt Lake with a subpar completion percentage, but he has been as integral to the team's culture as anyone on the squad. He's pretty good in pressure situations as a disc distributor as well. This is the line that I'm curious about for LA. We see contact there, clear foul. Mazer will march off the 10. Does LA have enough skill on this O prime line, the line that takes the field after they get broken after a long point, to be able to prevent one break from mushrooming into 2 or 3? Van Dusen stays out there. Mitchell Steiner's played more offense this year than virtually any other in his long AUDL career.
By his own choice.
Yep. Ransom has his pass intercepted. Great defense by the Salt Lake Shred. You can feel that coming. Picked off. And now another break opportunity here. Braden Eberhard, the pressure. And travel called. Slow the Salt Lake movement for a moment. Clock stops, under a minute to play in this first quarter.
Currently, the Aviators are in a switching scheme, and it's letting the up lines off for the Shred. I don't know if it's the right defensive call, but they have to do something to try to stop this very quick give-and-go momentum.
When a D-line is, that's going to be a foul. Yeah. I was going to say, when a D-line is getting throws off before the stall gets to 1, it's not a great sign for the defense. It's a foul, it's not a strip. So Salt Lake will need to complete at least one more pass here. Kyle Weinberg with possession. Double teamed. DeLynn, beautiful. Angled perfectly. Weinberg has another Salt Lake break.
I gotta say, this is kind of what I expected. Evan, you made the great point questioning how LA was going to be able to punch back with its secondary O personnel after getting broken, or some kind of an O prime hybrid line. With the group that's rostered tonight, I just don't see the depth. And right now, it hasn't been a perfect game, certainly from LA. Hasn't been perfect from Salt Lake, but this Shred group is just kind of imposing its will right now with its physicality, with its pace, especially after the turnover. And it's looking like a group that's tough to stop tonight.
I think they look tough to stop any night.
Can't disagree with you.
I mean, they've been so good at that give and go movement, throwing and moving before the stall even gets off. And when the Aviators commit up front early to do that double team, it means that you're always out of position once they break that first one. So if you get off of the double team, then they're just behind the 8 ball and haven't been able to catch up. I think it's probably onto the coaching staff to try to make some different decisions, right? To make the Shred do something different.
LA was up 1-0 after starting the quarter on defense. Outscored 5-1 since. And did we just get an unsportsmanlike call against the Salt Lake sideline?
This goal advance 20 yards. Possession to the Aviators.
Free 20 yards with the clock stopped. Nice gift that the Shred just gave to the Aviators here. 14 seconds left in the quarter. Disc in the hands of Sam Cook. Giannis to Cook. 6 seconds for McDougal. Osborne wide open with 2. Osborne to Giannis, incomplete, but we got contact. Currently no time showing on the clock, but there will be at least one throw here for LA. Clock starts on the release. I think they're going to put 2 seconds on the timer. Giannis doubled. Now 1 second. Giannis hammer floats, and Ambrose runs it down and delivers an emphatic spike as the Aviators score at the buzzer to bring it back to a 2-goal game.
We heard Coach Merrill when we talked to him talk about how the Shred has messed up some of those end of quarter possessions, and that to Ambrose is one of those opportunities that I think the Shred would want back.
2 goals for Ambrose, 2 assists for Giannis. LA back on offense to start the second. Chance to get back within 1 when we return.
All right, fans, get on your feet. It's time for the dance-off with Ace the Aviator. So fans, let's show Ace your best dance moves.
July from Nottingham, England, the World Flying Disc Federation's World Under-24 Ultimate Championships. Live all-access coverage, including semis and finals, exclusively at ultiworld.com.
Responsible business is now sort of an essential facet of the future economy. Like, I'm talking like every business needs to start thinking about their social and especially environmental impact.
And if we look at all the problems that we have in the world today, they're not going to be solved by our governments and the not-for-profits. I think business has a really big role to kind of play. B Corp really kind of helps companies through the certification really understand that and kind of dig into their impact further.
Nice crowd here in Los Angeles as we come to you live on AUDL.TV and YouTube. For those watching Free Friday Frisbee but do not have their AUDL TV subscriptions for the remainder of the season, sign up today. You get a free week trial and you can watch every game for the rest of the season for $20. Intercepted by Salt Lake's Nathan Huff immediately to begin this second quarter. Not how the Aviators wanted to begin this period. Oh, that ball was fumbled away. Now he's asking for a foul, saying that there was contact from Kirchhoffer. But it looked like Hoffman just lost it. I beg Shapiro, excuse me. Let's take a look.
He just looked to drop that on his own.
Yeah, this should be a turnover from our perspective. Well, now Shapiro is offering the integrity. That's questionable at best.
Yep.
And Salt Lake converts.
Maybe integrity from Shapiro, but I don't know if that's integrity from the shred player, knowing that you dropped it after you had already held it through that body contact with the ground. I think he's gonna want that back once he sees that replay. But shred is on the board.
Chad Jorgensen, the first of the 3 Jorgensen brothers to catch a goal tonight. Of course, there are more than 3 Jorgensen brothers, but the 3 currently rostered Jorgensen brothers on the shred. Of course, Johnny Hoffman is a brother-in-law to the Jorgensens, married to one of Chad, Luke, and McKay's sisters.
That pole went all the way across the field and landed in a place where we've talked about the pulling rules changing and Salt Lake just giving Aviators yards there.
LA needs to make a statement here offensively. Van Dusen, Kiyoi, Giannis in the backfield. Cook, Osborne, McDougal, and Shapiro downfield. Giannis on the money. And there's that connection once again. Pavel to Sean.
We've seen the shred run this defense a couple times. It's maybe a 2-4-1 where there's markers up front, and we finally see more give-go action from the Aviators offense. You can see they're giving and going. Giannis coming up line and immediately releasing to Sean McDougal, aware there of the sideline very well. But that's what the Aviators offense is going to need to do. They're going to have to make adjustments to this shred defense because those defenders are just like a buzzsaw back there. They are hunting for those reset Ds, and if you give them a chance, one lazy pass, they are going to absolutely jump all over it.
There is one other West Division game going on right now in Portland. The Colorado Summit have an 8-3 lead on the Nitro. 8 different goal scorers, 8 different goal throwers so far for the Summit as they begin the night at 6-3, just like LA. Colorado snapping its 3-game losing streak this past Saturday with a real impressive performance against Minnesota. Knoll wants Kerr. Ambrose mistimed the jump. Kerr, did he float it enough? Yes. Selfridge runs it down.
Hard to believe we haven't really emphasized Selfridge's performance yet this game. He's just another stud on this offensive unit. Last season cut short due to an ACL injury.
And he's also 2 days shy of his 20th birthday. He'll turn 20 on Sunday.
Unbelievable. And you look at the other big victories Salt Lake has had this season. Their win in Colorado, he was just exceptional, phenomenal. He's playing with athleticism, poise, and decision-making that belies a far more experienced player.
Yeah, he still has a little of that 20-year-old swagger, though.
No question.
Well, he's not even 20 years old, though, yet.
Okay, 19-year-old swagger.
Oh, no. Van Dusen with a bit of deja vu for this LA O-line. Their second drop pull in as many weeks. It was Keough last weekend against San Diego. This time it's Van Dusen with the gaff, and Salt Lake continues its first half break train.
I feel so much pain watching that happen, having dropped pulls myself. You can see him collapsing backwards like all of the energy came out of his body. Almost getting onto the mark there. High stall count forced by the Aviators, but really good conversion by Shred.
Chad Jorgensen to Ben Ashton quickly on the one throw score after the drop pull.
Ben Ashton having himself a season in his second year in Salt Lake.
He's
coming
good.
into tonight, already had career highs in assists, goals, and blocks.
He's a good player. Another youngster, just 22. Salt Lake adds vets like Lindsley and Jaime. This is a very young Shred team, incredibly talented. Osborne with a lefty backhand, and Moonga accelerates to rip it down. Moonga shoots it. Salt Lake not quite perfect.
I mean, the numbers bear that out with Moonga's performance. He's gotten multiple blocks in a game against LA before. He just needs to dial in the decision-making and sharpen that completion percentage. There's no doubt that was the right look. The execution just off, and sometimes after you get really amped up, you get a block, you start the turn, the counterattack. Sometimes you just need to take that deep breath and gain your composure in order to execute the next throw appropriately.
Osborne open again downfield for LA. Back to Van Dusen, but no sense of Hoffman lurking. Salt Lake sending it deep. Hoffman, are you kidding me? My goodness, Johnny Hoffman, have yourself a night.
There was no hesitation before that throw went up. I love that sense of belief that the Shred has in just putting it out into space.
Hoffman, another one of those Shred guys that's just having himself a career year. And we can go up and down this roster and look at the guys who are setting records for completion percentage or scoring more goals or assists than they were the previous year. It's just every single person on this roster is contributing more and sharpening his decision making.
Timeout taken by LA.
Decisions downfield are going to get more and more desperate. Hold the unders, hold that force, and then we cash in. Don't go hunting for blocks before we've earned the chance to get it. Understood? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You're playing great. Let's show that discipline. We got a long game. We're here for it, all right? Yes, sir. Yeah. 1, 2, 3.
Bryce Merrill turned 37 in March, really built the BYU program into the powerhouse that it is today. And as he said, after the Shred's first ever weekend in this league, when they shocked the two-time reigning West Division champ San Diego and then came to LA and won a day later, he said, if we didn't think we could be really competitive, we wouldn't have bothered making a team. They're confident, they believe, and they have high expectations. And they're showing all that talent and potential, not just tonight, but all season long.
Yeah, I love that he was talking about being patient and earning those blocks. Every time I'm counting as we're watching this game, And anytime the Aviators get up to like 5, 6, they're forcing possessions, and every other Shred defender is aware of where that disc is going. If LA is going to get back in this, they have to keep the disc moving a little bit faster, because when Shred gets a chance to actually set, they are baiting those throws that the Aviators are taking for granted. They are baiting them up and down the field.
Shred now 4 of 5 on their hucks. Aviators only 1 for 1. Salt Lake has 9 goals and 4 turnovers. LA has the opposite, 4 goals and 9 turns. Just over 4 minutes gone in this second quarter. As Bryce Merrill said, it is a long game. You see the double team coming on Ambrose. Gets the Scuba off to Ransom. And here's Steiner. Into the hands of Landon Shank. Aviators are 5-0 with Shank in the lineup this year. He's played in all 5 games of their winning streak. But Pavel Giannis told me the biggest factor in our 5-game winning streak was, quote, the inferiority of our opponents. And he said that not in jest, he said it accurately. They beat the 3 teams at the bottom of this West Division 5 times in a row. They haven't beaten one of the top teams in the division yet, and that turnover is not going to help the cause. 9th break chance of the half for the Shred. They're 6 of 8 so far.
Can always count on Pavel for the brutally sharp assessment.
Yeah, he is an unvarnished speaker. There's just a different look to the Shred D-line from a year ago. I mean, how many shots did they take last year, Ian, that were like, well, I mean, it's exciting, but not smart ultimate. And it's like they have matured considerably from last year to this year in kind of a fascinating way.
Yeah, that group you could categorize as trigger happy last season, right? Whenever there was a sliver of a window on a deep shot, they were eager to take it. But this year, their willingness to listen to what Coach Bryce Merrill and the rest of the staff is preaching, pump, reset, take the possession-oriented option. I mean, it's hard to argue with those results, and you hope that everyone on that line just starts to internalize and realize, hey, it's pretty hard for anyone to stop us when we play this way.
If you're the Aviators right now, Katie, I mean, they're not oblivious to the energy from the opposing sideline, to the athleticism that they're feeling point in, point out. There's a lot of game left, but it may not go well for LA if they can't just gain some sort of positive momentum here.
You just have to try something. You have to try something different. If what you're doing isn't working, you can't keep doing that or just trying to do that thing better. So I want to see them take chances. We say 1 for 1 on hucking opportunities. They have plenty of throwers on this line. Let's see if they can get a turn and then maybe turn and burn going the other direction.
After the timeout, Salt Lake's O-line's out there. Lindsley to McKay Jorgensen. Over for Jacob Miller. Mateo Dominguez in his AUDL debut, getting a chance to guard a USA World Games gold medalist in Grant Lindsley. Bouncing around out there. Knoll angles it to the end zone, and it's dropped. Incomplete through the hands of Jace Dunabile. And perhaps, maybe, that's the gift that the Aviators needed. Under 5 minutes to play in the first half. Tumbling but maintaining possession. Kirchhoffer to Dominguez. They call him Swipa. He's on the practice squad. They just signed him to an active contract last week. Through the hands of Chris Cogswell.
You could see him motioning for some kind of foul or integrity call. At full speed in the moment, I thought he had an argument for it.
Floating it up there. Ambrose deflects it. Kerr unable to get the second effort. Kirchhoffer launching for Ambrose in the end zone. Bobbled, and was he in bounds? No. The bobble took him out of bounds, so said the sideline official.
Well, I did say I wanted them to turn and burn going deep, and maybe they heard me, because that was an exciting play and much more effort than we've seen.
Take a look at that sideline in or out call in a moment. Very close to Adib was McDougal. The other way, Jaime accelerating, yikes. Not in, no, he was in. And he got undercut by Cogswell, who looks to apologize immediately. Former Atlanta and Nashville goal scorer Eli Jaime has his first of the night. And the Aviators with a couple chances to get back within 4. Instead, the lead swells to 6.
But it was a much more exciting point.
Sure was. And yet just unforced errors both ways, things that LA cannot afford. Ambrose now with multiple blocks in 6 games this year. That should have been an unsportsmanlike call on Cogswell there.
Yeah, even though I think he tripped, it's still dangerous going into another player's knees. Yeah, well, we said it was maybe unsportsmanlike conduct, and from where the Aviators are starting, I'm thinking that the officials also called that play.
So pulling from midfield, and the rolling blade will roll out the back corner. That's about as good of a pull as you can ask for. Giannis is going to have to find a new Frisbee and begin deep in the caverns of his own end zone. Salt Lake choosing not to double team, just playing tough defense. Not the easiest throw right there, but an open target, Shapiro. Osborne chooses the hammer for Cook. Yeah, that's a stall. You can feel it coming. Salt Lake's defense fired up. Zach Burnside on the mark. LA has really, checked off almost every mistake you can make on the bingo card here in this first half. We had the stall, the drop pull, the bobble, the unsportsmanlike foul.
Maybe there's a betting game going that we don't know about, and somebody is having fun tonight with all of these.
Salt Lake's having fun.
Certainly.
The Oakland Spiders are probably having fun watching this. There's Giannis getting a piece of it on the goal line to earn possession back for LA. Pavel has not made a mistake tonight. He's 16 for 16 and gets credit for that D. Has 3 of the 4 assists for LA, and Keoy just wanting to avoid a stall and reset, takes the timeout. Allows everybody to take a deep breath with $1:33 remaining in this first half.
The absolute swarming nature of this Salt Lake defense, just able to mirror all of the reset options. It's stifling, and I don't use that term lightly.
Yeah, swarming's a great word for it. And I'm trying to think of another defense.
Water. Anybody need one? Everybody's good? 5, 4. Southwest. Stay center, Bruce.
Coaches, please hit the first up. Even if it's 2 yards, just hold the hand up. Downward, let's go. Come on. Score.
Cool to go inside the huddle. Trying to think of another defense in recent AUDL history that has had this swarming presence about them. And look, I mean, New York's had some excellent defenses, but it's a different type of defensive pressure than what we've seen from Salt Lake here tonight.
Just 1 to 7 on the line defensively, has through the roof athleticism. Just able to agilely shimmy in the backfield space, go step for step downfield. It's really impressive stuff.
Giannis engineering this charge down the field. Nice throw to find Van Dusen, sort of threw him open. Van Dusen, sizzling forehand into the end zone for Everest Shapiro. It's the first goal for LA since the 10:22 mark of the second quarter. Snaps a 4-0 shred run.
Well, great for Van Dusen to get some confidence back here after the mishap earlier in the quarter. And Shapiro just trying to do anything to bring some levity and life back to his line, to this crowd. Give them some kind of spark as they try to inch closer before halftime hits.
I mean, there's only a minute left, or just over a minute left on the clock, but I would think that this D-line is going to try to milk every second of that because their O-line has put in so much work in this second quarter.
Miller picks up, back to Knoll. Feels like we haven't seen the Salt Lake O-line that much, particularly here in the second quarter, and perhaps sitting on the sideline has taken some of their rhythm away. Simple throw off the mark. Mazer double teamed. Back to Santee. Van Dusen. 30 seconds. Mazer. Got it! Landon Shank, the former Notre Dame pole vaulter, runs it down, and just like that, Aviators back within 4.
You know, the Aviators have been down many times in this season, and they seem to find a way to battle back, and I think that's part of that growing mentality. Chris Mazer is obviously a veteran. I like how you can see him looking around being like, somebody cut for me. But it's this poise on the end zone line that this defense needed, and I think that spark, like you were talking about, Evan, that this Aviators line really needed. I think the emotionality of what happens in a game cannot be understated, and I think the crowd and the sideline and that belief needs to build if Aviators are going to come back.
Before that conversion, LA had been just 2 of 5 in the red zone tonight. They're now 3 for 6. They are 4th in the league in red zone percentage during the season. Of course, Salt Lake is 3rd in the league. These are 2 of the best in that department. And this feels so huge for LA, just to try and get a stop here. These final 10 seconds. Don't let Salt Lake get this buzzer beater, but the Shred have practiced these situations so many times, and goodness, was that clinical or what? Jacob Miller has the score to put the Shred back up 5 as they march down the field as if there were no defense out there at all.
Aviators trying to do something different, but I think that different didn't really put enough pressure on the Shred as they marked it down, although I must give a little bit of credit to the Aviators cheering section, who did try to fake out the Shred and gave them a couple extra seconds for an Aviators possession here.
Yeah, you saw the look of frustration on Mitchell Steiner's face in the bottom corner of that replay. It looked like he was expecting a little bit more help over the top from a slightly deeper defender, and just seemed indicative of that Aviators defensive unit not necessarily being on the same page. And the result bears that out, too, with how easily Salt Lake walked through.
Weinberg the pull, 2 seconds left. Giannis. That had the look of a shooter who didn't want to take the turnover. I don't think he released that before time expired, and it didn't come close to the end zone anyway. And we are at halftime with the Salt Lake Shred 8-0 and holding a 5-goal lead on the road as they begin this SoCal doubleheader weekend. The Shred with these 2 games in Southern California and then 2 home games against winless Portland and against undefeated New York 2 weeks from tomorrow. Salt Lake looking strong. It's 11-6 in favor of the boys from Utah.
What do you think, son? 8 or 9?
For that, I'd use this.
Manscaped, huh? Son, back in my day, ladies loved grass in the fairways.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. It's not for down there. The beard hedge is for your face.
Oh, really?
The Beard Hedger features a rotary zoom wheel that provides 20 precision settings with just 1 guard.
Grip it and trim it, baby.
Introducing the Beard Hedger. Order today at manscaped.com.
My first few years of college, I threw every single day. Of course you want to be a champion. Of course you want to be working towards winning titles.
Be happy, but never satisfied.
Better than ever.
July from Nottingham, England, the World Flying Disc Federation's World Under-24 Ultimate Championships. Live all-access coverage, including semis and finals, exclusively at ultiworld.com.
Responsible business is now sort of an essential facet of the future economy. Like, I'm talking like every business needs to start thinking about their social and especially environmental impact.
And if we look at all the problems that we have in the world today, they're not going to be solved by our governments and the not-for-profits. I think business has a really big role to kind of play. B Corp really kind of helps companies through the certification really understand that and kind of dig into their impact further.
It's halftime here in Los Angeles, and the entertainment being provided by the Trans Chorus of LA. It's an 11-6 halftime lead for the Salt Lake Shred, the visitors from Utah, who are playing their 23rd game in AUDL history tonight, and with a win, they'd be 20-3. Including 9-0 this year, trying to match the New York Empire, who beat DC earlier tonight. The sun's setting here in Southern California on a gorgeous evening for Ultimate. We'll take a look at the first half stats. Salt Lake was not as crisp as they could have been. They averaged just under 15 turns a game. They are on pace for 16, but the swarming defense and just the electric execution befitting the first place team in the West.
Absolutely, and I think it's the speed of that execution. There's no hesitation with what they're doing against other teams. They really are trying to play their own game. It's almost like they don't care who's out there. I watch them warm up, and their warm-up drill looks exactly like how they're running their offense, and I think that that's showing how much they believe in themselves in this system, and it's going to take some work from the Aviators to get back into this.
And sure, we can point to the number of turnovers, the imperfection on this stat sheet, but I think we cannot disagree that the effort and the intensity is there, and they are rising to the challenge of treating this game like a playoff dress rehearsal. They are bringing the energy, they are bringing the intensity, they are bringing the focus, they are fighting to get the disc back after they make a mistake, and they've got a great cushion because of it.
And just the purpose and precision that they showed on that final offensive point of the half. They took over with 25 seconds left. They scored with 2 seconds left, and it was just so diabolically clinical how they marched it down the field. Salt Lake atop the West Division standings as we get ready to flip the calendar to July. Shred will be in San Diego tomorrow as the Growlers look to end their 5-game losing streak. It's a disappointing season for San Diego, who's been in the playoffs regularly out west, but they were 2-1. Now they're 2-6. Only 3 teams will make the playoffs, and for the 3rd spot, it feels like it's going to come down to the last 2 weeks of the season when the Aviators and the Spiders play their 2 regular season meetings, Week 12 and Week 13, and consecutive Saturdays. Those are going to be huge games.
It's incredible to see the Oakland Spiders in that position. You know, I remember talking to Dan Silverstein earlier this season, and the blueprint for this program, as it set its roster this year, as it asked some veterans not to return, as it took a lot more youth onto its roster, was, hey, within 3 years we're going to be back at championship weekend, but right now we need to focus on establishing our identity and developing our youth. And they're getting upset victories. They're in the playoff hunt. It would be no surprise to see them in the West Division championship game. You might even go so far as to say that that plan is slightly ahead of schedule.
And we're on the road to championship weekend, August 25th and 26th in the Twin Cities. If the season ended right now, this is what the bracket would look like. Of course, New York basically seizing control of first place in that East Division with a win over DC tonight. Salt Lake would clinch first place in the West with a win tonight. Atlanta and Minnesota much more precariously ahead in their divisions right now. 2 Hustle Flyers games in July will determine the top spot in the South. And we are like 9 days away from seeing Minnesota and Indy go head-to-head in St. Paul. And the winner of that game likely seizes control in the Central.
I think it's exciting that there's so many games that matter this late in the season.
No question about it. Hope you are enjoying the telecast tonight. Free Friday Frisbee on YouTube. Get those AUDL.TV subscriptions as we head into the month of July and the playoffs after that in August. It's halftime in LA. The Aviators trailing by 5 at the break.
What do you think, son? 8 or 9?
For that, I'd use this.
Manscaped, huh? Son, back in my day, ladies loved grass in the fairways.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. It's not for down there. The beard hedge is for your face.
Oh, really?
The Beard Hedger features a rotary zoom wheel that provides 20 precision settings with just one guard.
Grip it and trim it, baby.
Introducing the Beard Hedger. Order today at manscaped.com.
My first few years of college, I threw every single day. Of course you want to be a champion. Of course you want to be working towards winning titles.
Be happy, but never satisfied.
Better than ever.
Welcome back to LA here on Pride Night as the Shred leads the Aviators 11-6 at the half. Interestingly, the other West Division game going on right now, 12-6 at halftime in favor of the Colorado Summit, but the presumed top two in this division going on the road and playing well, at least through a couple of quarters. We encourage you to download the AUDL app where you can follow your favorite team, see full schedules and stats, and log into AUDL.tv with one click directly from the app. Hope you'll download the AUDL app today. And of course, all season long, 2 episodes each week of Swing Pass, wherever you get your podcasts. And listen to Adam Ruffner and Daniel Cohen break down all the latest news and notes around the American Ultimate Disc League. Podcast isn't the same since Daniel cut his hair, but it's still a quality listen. So that's, but when they both had really long hair, you could hear it.
That sound dampening quality really giving you the insight into the AUDL.
Better acoustics. All right, second half's about to begin. Evan, Katie, and Ian with you here on Free Friday Frisbee from Southern California. And the Aviators, just like the first half, will begin the second half on defense. They got their only break of the half. Less than 2 minutes into the game on a huck from Mazer to Ambrose after the Salt Lake mistake.
Listen, Katie touched on this a little bit in the first half. This LA squad is no stranger to comebacks, especially when you look back to last week's performance against San Diego. Certainly think this Salt Lake group is a more formidable opponent, but this LA team does know what it takes to claw back into matchups.
Grant Lindsley looking long. Kerr versus Ambrose. And Kerr got in position to elevate and haul it in just shy of the goal line, and then Jordan Kerr throws another assist. That was a marquee matchup right there, and Kerr wins that particular battle against the AUDL's leader in Ds.
Well, I think Grant will be the first to tell you that this wasn't his prettiest deep shot, but that's just phenomenal positioning, great reading, great adjustments. You know, younger Ultimate players just might think, hey, I just need to jump higher and outreach that guy, but there's so much that you can accomplish purely by putting your frame in the right position and preventing the opposing defender from even having the right point of attack to try and make a high point play. And that's exactly what Kerr did on that spot, got in the right spot, used his size, and shielded Ambrose from connecting on the block attempt.
Lindsley throw goes for 51 yards officially. Shred now 6 of 7 on their hucks tonight. And now we see LA back on offense. The Aviators' O-line conversion percentage in the first half is 25%, 4 of 16. Better start to the second half. Did not take long to find Van Dusen in the end zone. In fact, that possession took just 30 seconds or so off the clock.
I mean, Katie, that's what you wanted, right? This offensive group to dig deeper into the playbook, switch it up, and test deep, and look at the results there.
Yeah, I think that the halftime huddle where they actually got some time to think about what Shred was doing, make some different adjustments, maybe mentally reset after some of those mistakes that they had made. Like we said, really hitting the bingo card for things you don't want to do in a Frisbee game. But that's much, much better from this Aviators side. And I think it looked a lot more confident from both teams if we compared the first 2 points of the first half with these first 2 points going into the second half. The first had sunlight, but this one has a little bit more sparkle on the field.
Big pull from Chris Mazer, secured by Jacob Miller. Lindsley all alone coming underneath. Knoll has launched some unbelievably great throws this year at a 90-yarder against LA in the first meeting. Lindsley slices it across the field. And just again, calm, cool, collected, efficient, pick your adjective. The Salt Lake Shredder cooking.
That was a next level field switch. An outside in blade all the way across the field over the stack. Something that, of course, any college coach would just have a heart attack when they saw an inexperienced player do it. But this is World Games champion Grant Lindsley. He knows how to find and unlock that space. And once he does that, just became an odd man rush for Salt Lake. An advantage there, and not much that the two Aviator defenders could do.
I'm just thinking about the spacing on that point, Ian, and it looks like the Aviators are sometimes guarding where they think the Shred players should be, as opposed to where the player actually is. And I think that that distance that they're giving, maybe a little bit too much respect in that to like where they should be going, because Shred is hitting really small windows. And they're not making it the Aviators are not making it very difficult for Shred to find those give and go and flow continuations.
Giannis lets it rip. McDougal adjusts. Pretty good transition defense from Salt Lake, dropping off and matching up, forcing the Aviators to continue to work. And it's Van Dusen for the second time in this quarter in the end zone for LA. Always said Brandon would make a good official one day.
Well, I'm sure he wants to win some more games and championships before that.
He's got the touchdown call down.
Yeah.
We're seeing a lot better fundamentals from the Aviators in this. We're actually seeing fakes to both sides, moving the mark a little bit more, and throwing and going upline, right, and hitting that upfield space. And that's what led to that score. It's something that the Shred has been doing really well, and it's nice to see that it works. As a coach, I always want to say, like, look at these fundamentals, they work. And it will work for both teams if you commit to that level of offensive play.
Knoll launching deep immediately. Dunabail has it blocked by Ambrose. Third D of the night for Lucas Ambrose as he continues to stack blocks one after another. deep into their own end zone for Kirchhoffer. Dominguez in his AUDL debut. You don't want to throw a Callahan in your AUDL debut. Did he throw any scores tonight, Mateo? One, but it was to the other team. That's not a conversation you want to have. Dominguez again hits his man Watkins up the line. Bookends! Lucas Ambrose has next level nuclear athleticism.
I don't think that that throw was for Ambrose, and I think that Ambrose took it. I think it was for Kirchhoffer, and it was thrown a little bit too eagerly, and it is a very fortunate turn of events for that Aviators D-line, and Ambrose really putting on a show at this point.
I mean, this rookie is making a case for Defensive Player of the Week, Player of the Year, week in and week out. And sometimes, if you're playing a bunch of inferior competition, it's easy to stack up block numbers, but when you're notching 3 blocks against the Shred, when you're notching 4 blocks against, sure, the Growlers, but being such an instrumental part of comebacks that are critical to the team's playoff race, I mean, he's doing it in the most high-pressure moments again and again against top competition. I'm so impressed.
Into the night with 18 blocks. You saw he's now 4 beyond Atlanta's Justin Burnett with a league lead of 21. Grady Watkins, by the way, threw his first career assist in the AUDL on that last point. Only he knows who that throw is truly intended for, but it counts as his first assist regardless. LA's second break of the night brings us back to a 4-point game. Selfridge, all alone, picks up the assist to Kerr.
And you could just see the frustration in the body language from Steiner and the other Aviators defenders after that point there. Just bamboozled at how Selfridge got so much separation when the stall count was that high. Just completely unmarked with a slash cut to the cone.
Something we haven't really talked about tonight is how many new players are playing for the Aviators. It was a weekend where they didn't have quite as much of their usual personnel, and I think you can see Steiner frustrated there because some of those switches that he would be used to having happen aren't there. And I think specifically on that D-line, Aviators captain Andrew Padula is usually a person who takes a lot of that pressure, the double teams, that really top handler pressure. And I think that that is a place that the Aviators are feeling his loss tonight because the Shred is really taking advantage of that give and go possession.
Yeah, Padula, one of a couple defenders that the Aviators are missing. Padula battling back from an MCL sprain, and Zach Shackner, a lower body muscle injury that he's working his way back from. The coaching staff wants both of those guys to be back for the Oakland matchups if they can be.
Well, the fact is, Aviators are off next week before their final 2 games against the Spiders, and regardless of the result tonight, they know that if they win those 2 games against the Spiders, they'll be in the playoffs. So if this was a playoff game tonight, might we see Padula and Shackner? I think there was a chance. Sean McDougal has been pretty quiet tonight by his electrifying standards. Kioy to Osborne. Aviators gradually gaining a little confidence here. We still got 6:25 to play in the third, and it's just a 4-goal game.
I think one of the reasons we haven't seen Sean McDougal is because they're playing against a zone and he's taking all of that deep space. When they finally threw it over the top, then it was Sean McDougal off to the races.
This is exactly what Bryce Merrill was talking about in that timeout huddle that we listened into in the first half. It is a long game. There are going to be responses. There is going to be desperation from the opponent. And yes, there's still a 4-goal cushion. The question now, can Salt Lake remain consistent? can it find a way to manage this cushion, still apply pressure, and put itself in a good spot heading into the final quarter.
Garrett Saney rolls the pull into the arms of McKay Jorgensen. Sean Cannell keeps it moving. Miller gets it to Kerr. Talk with Bryce Merrill about how Jordan Kerr is having another phenomenal season, but he doesn't feel as instrumental to Salt Lake's success this year. And part of that is the added balance and spectacular talent that they've given around him, like Lindsley and Selfridge and Jaime. Selfridge played a couple games last year before the season-ending knee injury. Just a powerful young cutter, and there's another just possession that you show to a young Ultimate team and say this is how to authoritatively, confidently work it down the field, executing the game plan to perfection.
And everything that preceded that required patience, right? Because think about the number of times that this Shred offense swung the disc back and forth laterally, waiting for the right seam to open up. There were 4 quick passes that got it over to that far right-handed backhand sideline, a big swing from Miller back over to this right-handed flick sideline, and then another lateral movement back across. The more you test and tire out the rest of this defense, the greater opportunity you give yourself to open up those inside seams.
I just want to say, because that was pretty. You made it sound so technical, but that was just pretty offense.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Salt Lake, similar O-line numbers as they've had all year long. The Shredder, number 2 in the AUDL in completion percentage, number 1 among teams that play all their games outdoors. Indy, number 1, but they play their home games inside, so that's definitely an advantage in terms of completing more passes with no elements to interfere. And historically, it's been offense that has decided the AUDL champion. Each of the past 6 years, the team that's finished the year with the highest O-line hold percentage has won the AUDL title. LA works it and converts. McDougal to Van Dusen. It's been a very different Aviators offense here in this third quarter compared to what we saw in the first half when their efficiency was 25%.
Yeah, they started the quarter with a few more deep shots that were really opening things up and enabling some quick score attacks, but Katie, they've kind of diversified that attack as the quarter has gone on.
And you have to against a defense like that.
McDougal to Van Dusen to punctuate that point. As you see Giannis's numbers tonight, he had 3 of the first 4 assists. But on his way to another 300-yard night. He was number 2 in the AUDL in throwing yards each of the past 2 years. He's number 1 this year with a clear lead over Dallas's Jason Hustad. Know who was number 1 in AUDL in throwing yards each of the past 2 years? 2 different guys.
Ryan Osgar? No. Okay. Go ahead.
Saul Yannick, 2021 with the Flyers.
Yep.
Jonathan Nethercutt, last year with the Summit.
I am embarrassed that I didn't recall that correctly on the spot.
No worries. Ryan Osgar and Jordan Kerr were in their own league from a versatile yardage standpoint. Those 2 guys were the only players in the AUDL last year that each had 3,000 throwing and 3,000 receiving yards. And they were 2 of the top MVP finishers. Of course, Oscar won the award, and Jordan Kerr says, well, maybe this year's my turn.
I don't think you can overstate the impact that Grant Lindsley is actually having on this Shred line.
Love this point.
He has gotten blades, right? That flick blade all the way over to the other sideline multiple times when the stall count is rising. There are no other options. They're getting there, and you can just see this slicing across the defense where no defenders can get it, and then it's on the break side off to the races. And that kind of poise and experience that's been added to this shred line is just one more weapon that they have in order to attack you with. And I think as a defense, it's so frustrating to see that, but Lindsley absolutely poised in that position for this shred line.
Past few weeks, Grant's been settled more in Utah after his book tour has wrapped up, after the release of his first book, Mediocre Monk. It's fantastic. Get it on Amazon right now. Or in the bookstore of your choice.
I think the latest news was his publisher was helping him work on some newer translations.
Yeah, he's getting it published in South Korea. Not sure how to say mediocre monk in Korean, but people will soon know that phrase. In Seoul. Kiyoy works it around for Van Dusen and the Cook. I'll say it doesn't feel like Salt Lake's defensive intensity has lagged much here in this third quarter. It's just LA has handled it better, particularly with their resets and their poise against the pressure.
Yeah, they've kind of found their footing.
Shooting it deep. Shapiro made the adjustment, and he lands just shy of the end zone. Super reset for Cook. McDougal. And now they're in. Former Seattle Cascade Sam Cook collects the score. It is his first of the night.
We're starting to see a little bit of a different defensive look from Shred. They've been really set in that zone look for most of the point, and once the Aviators beat that, now they're going person a lot more, and Aviators, I think, are having a little bit easier of a time when they use that space, and that McDougal to Sean Cook connection is very good.
The franchise leader in goals, blocks, all the Sean Cook connection.
You're right. I just put it together in my brain because obviously it sounded correct. But Sean McDougal to Sam Cook, who I heard referred to as Cookie recently.
Yeah, that's what Jeff called him.
And I've never heard that. I was at USC coaching when he was there as a student and never heard him called Cookie. But I don't hate it.
Opportunity here for LA. A chance to get back within 3 after the errant Shred reset. Kirchhoffer for Santi. Ambrose.
This is critical. Will Jeff Landesman stick with his strategy of not burning the timeout and trying to tire out the Salt Lake O line?
It's about trust. It's about execution even more so. Timeout called. And I'm not sure if it was Jeff Landesman or Pavel Giannis that called it, standing next to the official. Critical is the right word, Ian. I mean, LA has trailed by as many as 6. They have figured things out offensively here in this third quarter. They scored 6 goals in the first half, then they scored 6 goals in the first 10 minutes here in the second half. And they've got a chance to really make this interesting if they can punch this in. They'll receive to start the fourth as well.
One of those moments where you get put on the field, you know, we can change out all of the players and you can feel the tension rising here in the stands. I think all of the fans here know what is at stake in this game, and the players, this is what you live for with games, right? Like, it doesn't matter how big the chance is. There's always points like this where things can change.
this would be a momentum shifter.
Giannis, marked by Jorgensen. Gets it right back from Kioy. Into the hands of McDougal. Sean McDougal. And Giannis to the end zone. It's caught. Brandon Van Dusen brings the Aviators within 3.
So the extra benefit for LA there as we get another look at the turnover. Knoll's throw off the line. Blocked there. The double team providing pressure along with the reset matchup. But think about how much time LA's top D-line just had to catch its breath after the timeout call, after the goal, and the 60 seconds between points. They can pour on the pressure and hopefully, with 52 seconds here, apply more defensive pressure than they did at the end of quarter situation at the end of the second quarter.
It is a long game, and those small infinitesimal moments will matter. That pull.
Yeah, that pull out of bounds out the back by 15 yards.
Too strong from Chris Mazer.
It's funny, Jeff Landesman shouted out Mazer and Santee for their pulling execution over the last couple weeks. And not the best moment for an OB pull.
Unless he was playing the bingo game where you do things you aren't supposed to do, and then he's doing excellent.
Floater from Kerr, and it's snagged by Selfridge. Resets to Jordan after the bump. Contact call. Mazer fouling Knoll.
Yeah, you could see Knoll looking at the ref and appealing for that one.
35 seconds left in the third. Knoll for Lindsley, incomplete. If the Aviators can score here before the buzzer, I mean, they could start the fourth quarter with possession too, and this could be a one-goal game. Shank with 17. Big hammer reset. Steiner with 12. Aviators want to save their last timeout for the fourth quarter.
Crossfield hammer is open.
Time winding down. Steiner beats the buzzer from Mazer. It's a two-goal game.
Out of the fingertips of Lindsley's hand, and so aware of clock here. Shank has been such a good player, and they're right from Mazer to Steiner. What a stunner.
The Steiner stunner brings it back to a two-goal game. And as I said, the Aviators will receive to start the fourth. How surprised are y'all by what we've seen in this third quarter?
I'm pretty surprised. I feel like LA has kind of made me eat my words relative to comments in the first half about what I was expecting with Salt Lake having such command of the game after the first quarter.
Looks like they put time back on the clock.
Yeah, official saying he got it off, and it is ripped away by Everest Shapiro. Getting huge in the waning moments of the third. And if you've stayed up late for this one, we've got a heck of a fourth quarter coming up. LA wins that third period 8-5. The Aviators O-line was perfect in that third quarter. And they'll start on offense when we come back with a chance to slice the two-goal gap in half here in LA.
July from Nottingham, England, the World Flying Disc Federation's World Under-24 Ultimate Championships. Live all-access coverage, including semis and finals, exclusively at ultiworld.com.
Responsible business is now sort of an essential facet of the future economy. Like, I'm talking like every business needs to start thinking about their social and especially environmental impact.
And if we look at all the problems that we have in the world today, they're not going to be solved by our governments and the not-for-profits. I think business has a really big role to kind of play. B Corp really kind of helps companies through the certification really understand that and kind of dig into their impact further.
For those of you watching on the East Coast, happy July. Here in LA, we got less than 3 hours remaining in the month of June, and the Aviators trying to finish off this month with a bang. They're 5-0 in June. They've trailed by as many as 6 tonight, and yet they're only down 2 as we take the turn into the fourth. Evan Lepler with Katie Killebrew and Ian Toner. And the Aviators able to handle the pressure that Salt Lake has thrown at them in this second half like a different team completely. They were 4 for 16 on O-line conversions in the first half. Their O-line has not turned it over yet in the second half. And it's a one-goal game with plenty of time left.
I mean, this was not an easy hold. There were a handful of contested catches, and the finishing shot, a scoober through traffic that had to fall perfectly into that second layer of the receiving options. Otherwise, it was going to be a turnover.
Not an easy throw there from Van Dusen, but he placed it perfectly for Osborne.
He's having himself a night, and it's almost like this Aviators offense is finding the chemistry that we know it's been capable of on paper, but it's been so tough to replicate in practice all season long.
The Shred are 8-0 this year. They've won 15 of their last 16 games. And yet they're getting tested tonight here in the second half against a hungry LA Aviators team. The Jorgensen brothers in the backfield for Salt Lake. Luke for McKay. To Kerr. Miller. Lindsley coming underneath. Who's got the legs in this fourth quarter to play harder, to run harder, to leave your feet for the deflection that you need? Yikes. Kind of a scary landing there from Knoll. Fortunately, he pops right back up. Ruled not in. Lindsley had a couple receivers, and Jaime takes charge. And after a good 90 seconds of disc movement, Salt Lake doubles the lead.
Salt Lake just kept possession long enough in that point to make the Aviators pay for some missed switches. I think that we've talked about, with the personnel on this line, a lot of them being younger, maybe not having worked together as well. We see that finally they did that, but they've been playing so much better defense as this game has gotten on, and Aviators really don't have anything to lose in this game.
Grant Lindsley staying out there on O, or on D, I should say.
You mentioned it earlier, Evan. There's a coordinated plan with the coaching staff where both he and Will Selfridge can slot into one of 4 defensive lines when needed.
And the idea of that is to really give them a home, give them a group that they don't feel like strangers playing with when they're crossing over on D. This is their line. When they take the field on D, this is the group. A little bit of a scary reset there, but Giannis able to keep it moving. Kiyoy floats it up the line for McDougal. I've liked the way the officials have handled the physical marks in this game. We've seen both teams really put their chests on the marks, both the thrower and the marker. Been a physical game, but relatively clean. Aviators. Giannis denied. Intended for Osborne, but tremendous athleticism again from Johnny Hoffman. His 3rd block of the evening.
I mean, he's been getting blocks like those throughout this season. You can just go down the list of the number of athletic, explosive defenders. And it's crazy that sometimes you even forget about Johnny Hoffman with the level of talent and explosion that he brings.
And Lindsley has dialed in that throw all night long, connecting with LaRue to extend the Salt Lake lead. Katie Killeber is speechless up here, folks. She's just shaking her head in bewilderment at that execution from Lindsley.
I mean, firstly, on this play from Giannis, Giannis doesn't usually throw it out of bounds, but Lindsley there getting the better of McDougal, running all the way up line for maybe a 15-yard gainer, and then with poise putting it to the break side with that. I feel like any team that's watching this trying to scout Shred, you should know that Grant Lindsley is going to do that.
But how do you stop it? Because if you overplay it, he'll just take the open side shot.
I think you have to play a little bit tighter upfield so he doesn't have a person who's wide open on the break side to throw it to.
Giannis angles that one nicely downfield for Santi. Interesting line out there right now for the Aviators. Shank right back to Giannis and into the end zone. It's Ambrose.
Aviators, coming up 24, Lucas Ambrose.
Vitally important response here from LA.
Yeah, much quicker, and I think that changing up their personnel a little bit is proving that they do have more depth. We had talked about that secondary O-line, can they score? And that Giannis to Ambrose connection proves that they can score and can score quickly to get their defense back out on the field.
Closing in on 400 yards now. The AUDL's all-time assist king.
Hey, let's run, Garrett.
I don't know that they give the title king. I think that's you. I feel like he's the leader.
For the moment, he's the king. But in this Game of Thrones, nothing lasts forever. Paraphrasing Cersei Lannister, of course. 7 minutes to play. Seems like Salt Lake often takes their time getting going, and then once they start marching down the field, it's just like a tidal wave.
It's really hard to play shutdown defense for this long. And I think that the Aviators are doing a good job, but at some point somebody has to try to get a D. You can't just keep blocking them or making it difficult. Like, you have to go get a D.
And as it so often does, the point ends with a Jordan Kerr assist. Sean Cannell having another nice night. The Salt Lake Shred now 6 minutes and 18 seconds away from their 9th consecutive win. 15 days from now, we'll see New York and Salt Lake play in Utah in what could be the game of the year in the AUDL regular season.
Can't wait for that one.
I love that it's going to be at high altitude too, just to see if the New York Empire is really up to the level of the Shred.
Yeah, they're going to be enduring one of the tougher road trips in the AUDL. They go to Colorado on Friday night first to face the Summit, and then stay up at elevation to play the Shred on Saturday night.
I think that's going to be the toughest doubleheader the New York Empire ever had in this league. They've never played at altitude before as an AUDL franchise. Those are going to be a couple electric crowds. 2 weeks from tonight in Golden, 2 weeks from tomorrow in Salt Lake. Ten-yard violation called against Giannis. If you're the Aviators here, you continue to play your normal offense. Only if you get broken here do you have to start thinking about clock. But now that is a realistic possibility as the shot for Cook overthrown. Salt Lake's going to take this under 5 minutes.
Salt Lake has proved that they can have that sustained focus a little bit more than the Aviators can. And I think that that execution of those small places is really where the Shred is shining tonight.
Bobbled and dropped.
Not there.
That was Selfridge with a rare hiccup, given his entire body to try to get it back. But instead it's Keoy with 4:41 left, bringing LA right back in it.
Keoy, the Aviators All-Star Game representative in 2022, really put together a career year. Availability not perfect at the beginning of this season, but he's filling his role so well in the moment. Just another reliable cog on that offensive line that's really trying to solidify its cohesion, consistency, and chemistry.
Yeah, Steiner with the disc there is the only other player to play every season with the Aviators. Keoy and Steiner really the O and D leaders of this team.
Keoy, former AUDL champion with the 2014 Spiders. Kirchhoffer bumping Dunabile there from behind. Gifting 10 yards to Salt Lake. We haven't talked a ton about McKay Jorgensen tonight, but another 21-year-old. Bryce Merrill envisioned him playing on the D-line at the start of the season. Switched him over to O to add another handler, and he's just been so steady.
the youth for Shred is so scary, I think, for other teams because they're so good right now and they have so many more years of playing together, building chemistry, and, you know, trying to build a dynasty.
There's a pick downfield called by the official in the end zone with which the Shred are attacking. Kerr, another opportunity to finish the point, and that will work. Wow. There's something cruel about the defense expending that much energy and then the point ending with that lazy push pass, one star to another.
The fast feet from Lindsley in the small space, that is...
It was like a salsa or a tango there. You could see him run forward and backwards, just backstepping a little bit there, really aware of both sides. That is a veteran dance move there on that front end zone line.
And Santi jumped the lane. He thought he had the block, but Kerr holstered, and then it was wide open.
Exciting. That's exciting Frisbee right there.
It's been do or die time for a few points now for LA, and they need to get this hold and give their defense a shot at some kind of quick break.
Not what LA was looking for. Quick turnover. Shred do have a couple timeouts, but not looking to use them. And that's incomplete. It's a couple in this half that Selfridge has had a chance to snag and hasn't grabbed them. Surprisingly so. Opening the door just a little bit here for LA. I think that was Chad Jorgensen, not Selfridge, who unable to make that catch. Van Dusen for McDougal. Nope. Understand the shot. Down by 3 with the clock ticking under 2 minutes. Hang in the air a long time, but able to be hauled in by Ben Hoffman. Burnside back for Eugene LaRue. Snagged by Jorgensen. This is Chad. DeLynn throws it down.
One minute remaining in the game.
That was the 14th turnover of the night for Salt Lake. But LA's turnover count mounting here as well.
Just like you said on that previous shot to McDougal, Giannis had to pull the trigger on this one. And this outcome is basically no longer in doubt.
Could be a Callahan, and instead it's caught. No, it's incomplete. McDougal gets the block, nearly saved in the back of the end zone. McDougal with a fastball assist. Osborne the emphatic spike. 2-goal game, 38 seconds left.
I think the Aviators definitely felt the clock on that one, maybe making some extra mistakes, what they wouldn't, but that defensive effort from McDougal, getting the disc back, and really putting this in, and then a laser here to Osborne, who's just putting himself at the back of the stack. I called Sean a goofball at the beginning of this, and he is, absolutely. But I think one of the underrated parts of his game is the fire that he brings to his team and his ability to make plays in big moments just like that.
He's one of 6 players in the history of this league with over 200 goals, 150 assists, and 100 blocks. Yacht, Gross, Harris, Helton, Frood, and McDougal. Pretty good list.
Distinguished company, for sure.
Integrity roll here from Knoll. Aviators don't like the call. Clock hasn't started yet at this point. Now it does. Salt Lake needs about 7 more completions to finish this thing off. Salt Lake went 10-2 a year ago. Won their first round playoff game against San Diego, but then lost in Denver in the West Final. With this win tonight, the West Division Championship chase goes through Utah. And we are one step closer to an extraordinary battle of unbeatens 2 weeks from tomorrow, with New York and Salt Lake both moving to 9-0 tonight. Heck of an effort from the Aviators, trailed by 6, got within 1, but they could not get past the Salt Lake Shred, who are now 9-0 as they try to turn the page and sweep the SoCal weekend tomorrow in San Diego.
Look, I think we really only got LA's best effort in the second half, right? This team just, I don't know if it's fair to characterize it that they weren't ready at the outset, but they just couldn't hang in the first half. Salt Lake, on the other hand, felt the urgency of, hey, we need to treat these games that we have left on our schedule like playoff dress rehearsals, and they brought that intensity, they brought that execution, they brought that swarming pressure right off the bat.
Game high 7 assists makes Jordan Kerr our Manscaped MVP. Kind of a game pretty typical for his season, in which he didn't have to take over, but he was incredibly efficient when he had an opportunity to finish points and was his typical steady, excellent self.
I was very impressed with how he played, and he doesn't have to make plays, but he certainly does make them. You can see it with that throwing and faking there with Lindsley. Kerr really made an impact on this game, and he's going to continue to make an impact through the rest of this season.
Got to give a shout out to the defenders in this game too. 3 different guys finished with 3 blocks. Johnny Hoffman and Tony Moonga each had 3 blocks for the Shred, and then Lucas Ambrose, for the 6th time in 10 games, had multiple blocks, and he had 3 more tonight. Now has 21 on the season in 10 games for this rookie, this young kid, 24 years old.
Defensive Player of the Year.
Certainly has a case to be made. He was the midseason D Player of the Year. And now the Aviators turn the page to the Oakland Spiders 2 weeks from now. They've got 2 more games against Oakland coming up, weeks 12 and 13. Salt Lake has another week 10 game on the schedule tomorrow night. AUDL.TV, our Fox Sports game of the week, 6:15 Pacific, 9:15 Eastern. Thanks for being with us tonight on Free Friday Frisbee. Hope you'll join us on AUDL.TV for the rest of the season. Less than $10 a month for every single game all year long. For Ian Toner and Katie Killebrew and our entire crew, I'm Evan Lepler saying good night from LA. Heck of a comeback from the Aviators, but it was not enough. And ultimately, the Salt Lake Shred are 9-0. They win at 20-18 over the Aviators. We'll see you tomorrow night in San Diego.